Hey, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Caitlin. I talk about all things personal finance and lifestyle. And today I wanted to talk about the unfortunate mistakes that I've made that put me back into five-figure debt after clawing my way out of it just a few years ago. I've realized that getting out of debt and being more responsible with my personal finances is kind of akin to losing weight and then staying in shape after you've lost weight. So I, a couple of years ago, lost over 40 pounds and worked really hard to keep it off. I'm realizing now that I probably should have done the same thing with my personal finance. I kind of had this idea that once I was out of debt and once I understood finance a little bit more, that I wouldn't find myself in the same position. But in recent years, I have gotten back into five-figure debt, and these are the mistakes that I've made that I wish I avoided. And I just want to note briefly that I am a freelancer, so my finances and income look a lot different than people working maybe a full-time job with a fixed income. I'm also single and I have no kids except for my cat Ollie. So my finances and my ability to be flexible with my finances might look a lot different than other people. So I saw this YouTuber once start a video by saying, take what you love and leave what you don't. And I think that applies here very well. So let's get into it. So I think my first mistake was being so excited to get out of debt and live a more normal life that I just stopped the intense frugal living and kind of just like lived life and didn't really worry about my finances for a while. And that also meant not building an emergency fund. So I kind of just like skirted through life. I had a line of credit that was at a $0 balance. And I was like, well, if anything happens, I can just use my line of credit, which is shameful to say. Like, I feel like I should have already known not to rely on that, given the fact that I have done so much personal finance reflection and growth. But here we are. The second thing that put me into a lot of debt was moving abroad. So last year, I moved from Canada to Istanbul to be with my long distance boyfriend. That's another story for another video, but it was hella expensive to move abroad. I brought 7 suitcases with me. I brought my cat with me. I rented an apartment and it was kind of all on a hope and a prayer. Um, I ended up breaking up with that boyfriend shortly after, and then the renewal for my residence permit was not approved. So I was effectively deported from Istanbul at the last minute and had to move all of my stuff, pack up my whole apartment, get rid of so many things, and move everything back to Canada within a like 2-week time frame. And traveling with that much stuff, that long of a distance, and with a cat, that alone, I would say, plus the lawyer fees of trying to stay, various other government things that I paid for, that ended up being 5 figures of debt on its own. And without an emergency fund, which I should have had before moving abroad, yeah, let's just say I'm still paying that off today. Now I'm back in Canada with that debt still along for the ride. The third thing that I think played a huge role into me going back into debt was while I was in Istanbul, I kind of just took it as a gap year. I took Turkish lessons. I wrote a book that is not agented, and I don't have a book deal yet. So it was just for the fun of writing this book. I took a lot of beach days. I went out with friends. I went to a fitness class. Like, I basically just lived my life. And my work life was kind of on the side. Like I said, I'm a freelancer. So I can take writing assignments or leave them. I can pitch or I can choose to have a slower month. So I spent my year in Istanbul basically just chilling and still living within my means, but not going out and making the money required to build myself a safety net and a better foundation. Like, I was just going to like cheaper grocery stores. I was being mindful when I went out for drinks with friends to not overspend, But I think that had I put a little bit more effort into actually taking more writing work while I was there, I would have been in a much better position than I am now. So, along with the essential gap year, I also kind of stopped tracking my income on a granular level. And I know that there's a lot of back and forth discourse when it comes to that. Some people say it's a waste of time, some people say it's essential to track every single purchase. I think for me, having that data really helped me know what I was spending and like cutting back when I needed to. And while I was in Istanbul and even after, I kind of just let it fall off a bit. Like I was still tracking like my rent and my phone bill and my subscriptions, but like things like smaller, more frivolous purchases, I stopped tracking and I kind of just let it build up on my credit card and not worry about it. I was still paying off my credit card every month. Like I wasn't like letting a balance fold into the next month. But I think not tracking, like not being more strict with my spending in that way for frivolous things, it just put me in a position where I was spending a lot paying off my credit card instead of saving that money for things like emergency trips back to Canada when I get deported from the country I'm living in. Another thing that I found very detrimental for me was even though I am diligent about tracking all of my income, the way that I track it, and honestly, I'm still kind of bad for this. I'm still making the switch over. But the way that I track it is so if I pitch a story and that story gets commissioned, I will count that commission this month. So basically, I'm tracking my income before it even hits my bank account. And as a freelancer, at least for the writing industry, the payment terms are usually net 30 to net 90. And that means that, say, I have like an amazing assignment this month, say I'm getting paid like $2,000 to write a story, which doesn't happen very often, but let's just say it. I would put that $2,000 into my budget for this month. And sometimes I won't see that payment for 2 or 3 months. So I'm trying to make the switch to only counting my income when it hits my bank account. I'm thinking of doing something like expected and then actual payment. I see a lot of financial YouTubers who are also freelancers. They will put their expected payment as well as their actual payment. And to me, that seems like a better way to kind of understand how the business is going and instead of just relying on like, okay, this money is going to hit my bank account at some point. So those are the things that contributed to me going back into debt after clawing my way out of 50,000 plus dollars of debt. It's not as bad this time. It's mostly line of credit and credit card debt that I took on when I was leaving Istanbul, and then I moved back to Atlantic Canada, where I was from, and then moved to Montreal. So it's mostly moving expenses, and it's not as wild as last time, but it's definitely a setback, and it's something that I wish I had have kind of like prepared for more. There was obviously like no guarantee that I was going to be able to stay living abroad, so I think having that emergency fund would have made my year in Istanbul a lot less stressful in certain ways, and it would have made right now a lot more pleasant as well because even though I'm back in Canada, I'm back in Montreal, which I lived in for a decade before moving to Istanbul, and I'm so excited to be back. I still am in the position where I have to live super frugal, get out of this debt, and not make the same mistakes again. So, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful at all. I think the main takeaway is seriously like treat getting out of debt like you would treat getting in shape. Just because you've made it to that point doesn't mean you're there and you have no work left to do ever. It's like now you're in the maintenance mode, which is forever for the rest of your life. Um, so, yeah, I guess have an emergency fund and track your spending well. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.